CS2 has received a new update, and it wouldn't be right if a whole section of people didn't get pissed off for a bunch of different reasons. I will explain exactly what those reasons are, and maybe together we can decide if the anger is justified or not. Okay, as I'm sure some of you have already seen, Dimitri did a video yesterday talking about the gameplay changes in this update, the good and the bad. Luckily for me though, there was an entirely different reason this update gained immediate backlash, so there's more to talk about. The last section of the update is about trade protected items, a new level of protection that has been added to the in-game skins market. Quote, in the unlikely event that you lose control of your account or were the target of a scam by a bad actor, you may reverse all Counter-Strike item trades from the last 7 days. It's as simple as it sounds. Two people make a trade, either party can choose to reverse that trade within 7 days for any reason, whether it was a scam or they just changed their mind. No approval process, just a few clicks, and it's like it never happened. And that one paragraph threw a lot of skin enthusiasts into a tizzy, and at first glance, I can understand why it raised some eyebrows. But there's obviously more to it, which is why Valve included an FAQ section for this new feature, so let's go over some of those details now. So this seems to be a feature that could potentially be added to any game on Steam with a market, but for the time being, it's only in CS2. And while it's only effective on trades made after this update, trade protection will be on all items, from skins to stickers to cases, everything. Valve has also made it clear that there's no getting out of this. These trade protections apply to everyone for every trade. And that means that this is the new reality moving forward. I tried it out for myself with a friend, and during the process, you are made aware of the trade protection policy many times. And if you look at your trade history, you will also be reminded what can be reversed and what can't. Lastly, if you do go through with it and reverse your trades, your account will then be trade restricted for 30 days, which Valve says is basically to avoid users getting scammed again if their account is still compromised. Though I'm sure it's also done to limit people from potentially abusing this feature. Valve also makes it clear that this process is supposed to be a big deal. Hell, you're even logged out of Steam if you reverse a trade. So this isn't meant to be something you do for shits and giggles. This leads us to why. Why is Valve introducing this? One word: scammers. Valve may have said in the unlikely event, but the reality is that the risk of API phishing and QR scams becomes bigger and bigger every day. I mean, last week, I literally covered the story of that random platformer game that was using copycats of CS2 items to trick people into thinking they were getting the real ones in trades. If you fall victim to something like that, or someone gets access to your account, if you notice, within 7 days, a trade reverse will save you, like it never happened. Now, if you lose full control of your account, authenticator and all, you're probably still f***ed. But on paper, this is that extra layer of protection we've all been waiting for. So why would people have an issue with this? Well, for starters, there was some concern that this would spell the downfall for both third-party marketplaces and CS casinos. And as far as casinos are concerned, yeah, they could hypothetically be screwed here, because if you have to deposit your skins but then wait 7 days to actually make your bet, you may reconsider your impulses, if you know what I mean. If this becomes the case, then these casinos will probably have to force cash deposits or just fully turn into cash casinos to stay alive. But I know most people won't be crying over these sites, Lord knows I won't, so what about third-party marketplaces or private trades? This one is tough because for the most part, I'm not worried about the sites themselves trying to scam you. The fact is, the reputable sites that you should be using right now are not going to risk their reputation just to reverse a trade. However, I have seen many people suggest some sort of escrow or money held that values the same as the trade until that 7-day hold is over. That way, both parties would be protected. But the issue is, any sort of new hassle or element that people have to agree to is going to take time to get used to. And if people don't, or just continue to want instant trades, they might stop using these sites unless they adapt. If it's a private trade, especially one that involves cash, things get even trickier. Here's the fear. You send cash for a skin. You get that skin, but within the 7 days, buddy reverses the trade, getting their skin back and keeping your money.
Do not return. Do not redeem. What the hell?
Obviously, that was a bit, but the fear is there. The positive is that it removes pretty much every other scam in exchange for this potential one, but I think it's pretty easy to avoid. Plus, trying a scam like this is extremely risky and is likely only going to work once. That being said, there is another issue with this update, that since it applies to all items, if you get traded a case, you will not be able to open that case for 7 days. If you get a charm or a sticker, you will not be able to attach it for 7 days. Same goes with a skin and an existing attachable item. So that Oni nade shot case opening extravaganza would have likely not reached $500,000 in value because the whale would have not been able to impulsively send more and more cases as the day went on. So any mass case openings like this, or really anything that involves trades, is going to have to be planned a week in advance. And once again, gone are the days of instant flipping or cash withdrawals, which may drive people away from these alternatives, conveniently leaving the official Steam community marketplace as the only viable option. Buying directly from Steam seems to be the only way to avoid that 7-day waiting period, which really keeps things in the ecosystem, which I'm sure Valve is happy about. Now, I personally don't have an expensive taste, so I've only ever used a third-party marketplace or trader once. I prefer the safety and simplicity of Steam. Still, some flippers, traders, collectors, and others of that ilk are up in arms about this update, wondering why they're being punished because people are stupid enough to get scammed. But at the same time, people have been calling for more security since the day TF2 hats came, and honestly, this does seem like the best option as far as I can tell. The only other weird thing about this update that I had to reread a few times and then check for myself is that when you reverse a trade, it reverses everything that is still being held within a 7-day period. You don't get to pick and choose what you want to reverse. It's all or nothing so long as that they are still within that 7-day waiting period. Now, I understand that's supposed to be a last resort kill switch, but it can be kind of annoying if you make a trade with someone and then out of nowhere it gets reversed, all because they had an issue with a completely different trade with a completely different person. But that is just the compromise we have to make with a new feature like this one. As far as how this will affect the market, everyone has their own opinions, but personally, I think this is mostly just going to affect impulse buyers, but not for very long. People will eventually accept that they have to go through Steam, and that's only if third-party sites don't figure out solutions, which I'm sure they will. And as far as private trades go, I think Zipple put it best. Traders will now rely on reputation more than ever before, and we may start to see a lot of sales go through just a handful of people who have built that trust within the community. Could we potentially see some market shifting due to panic? Maybe, but I don't think it's going to be anything substantial or long-lasting. God, I hope this ages well. But the simple fact is that the process of eliminating a lot of scammers is a net positive for this game. And although it's going to be immediately good for CS players that are casual, I think in time, hardcore traders and degens will appreciate this new peace of mind. But I am biased because I don't really open cases, and I just mostly buy my shit off of the Steam marketplace because I'm rich. So if you personally dislike this change and actually think the negatives outweigh the positives, please sound off in the comments because I am genuinely interested. Until next time, enjoy that added protection, but remember, scammers will always find a way. I'm not rich. First of all, it was a joke. Speaking of jokes, Valve did a ha-ha hee-hee in the title for the update where they said Season 2, Episode 1, which is a joke about them not being able to count to 3. Left 4 Dead 2, Portal 2, Half-Life 2, Episode 1, no 3s. Get it?